Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this episode, we're going to be talking about photographing and taking video out in the field. I'm going to be showing you how I set up my camera in the field to be able to capture cool videos like this, but also take amazing photographs like this. What can be difficult is switching between photo and video in the field, and that is what I want to share. I do not take stills for my video, I switch between the two. There's a lot of setup, so stick with me till the end, you won't regret it. If you are new to this channel, my name is Shannon and I am a full-time photographer in beautiful British Columbia. Whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply enjoy some stunning visuals, you've come to the right place. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. Down at the beach. Kid's down at the water right now playing with his aunt and building some sandcastles. I figured this is a great spot to kind of go over my camera settings, video settings, how I switch between the two. And we're going to pretend we're out shooting the owls, which I'll show some of the B-roll. But these owls move fairly quick when they want to, but a lot of the times they're swooping and soaring. And usually when I'm recording, I'm shooting at like 60 frames per second, so I can slow it down to half speed, or 120 frames per second, so I can slow it down to quarter of the speed. So you get those beautiful, nice slow moments, and the really fast flapping of the wings, you can kind of slow them right down. Pair it with some music, and you got yourself a beautiful little video. Anyways, you get the idea. Now, a lot of people ask me, hey, do you take stills from the video that I record? And I do not. Here on the camera, actually, Haley, if you want to get closer, I can show you on the back of the camera here. So here on the camera, there's a little icon where you can switch between video and photos. So whenever I'm going to take photos, I switch to photos. Whenever I'm going to shoot video, I switch it over to video. So yeah, this is the Nikon Z9. The Z8 is the exact same thing. I love it that it has this little feature. When you have it set to, say, video, all of your settings that you made in video will stay there. So when you switch over to photo, it changes all the settings to what you have for photos. So you don't have to worry about your shutter speed, your aperture. That will stay with whatever one you're operating. Now, it's very, very, very important that you have fast memory cards. And I find that for video, since I'm shooting 4K, 120 frames, you want to have a really fast card. So this is the card that I'm using right now. So I have this really fast card. It is actually in slot 2, and I go into my camera and I set up that video gets recorded to slot 2. My photos is recorded on slot 1. It is a very fast card. This is a Sony XQD card, but it's not as fast as my video. I found that when I'm recording video, especially at 120 frames, that it would bog down if I had a slower card. And so switching between video over to photos, I wanted to do it as fast as possible to read and write so I can take photos right away. And that's why I think people who are watching my channel think that I've taken stills for my video. It's because I'm so fast at switching over, and that's also because of these cards. So they cost quite a bit. I'll have links down below if you want to, look at what cards I have. Okay, so I'm not sure if I explained that correctly. What I'm trying to get across is that your cards might be able to record 4K, 6K, 8K on it, not a problem. The issue is when you stop recording and you want to take photos right away, there could be a pause there if your card is a little bit slower at reading and writing. So this card right here that I have for photos can read at 440 megabytes per second and write at 400 megabytes per second, which is great for 4K, 8K, recording on this. But when I stop the recording and switch over to photos, it takes a second or two to write onto this card. Now, this other card that I use, this is 1700 megabytes per second for reading, and the writing is 1500 megabytes per second, which is almost 3 times faster than this card. So when I stop recording on this other card and switch over to photos, there's not any issues there with buffering, and I can just go ahead and shoot photos. Just make sure that you get out in the field, do some recording, stop it, switch over to photos, and see how fast you can switch from one to the next. Okay, moving on to the next thing. When I am photographing, I am shooting manual mode with auto ISO. So my shutter speed I set to what I want depending on how fast the owls are moving. My aperture, I'm usually wide open, but if it's super bright and sunny out and I've got a lot of light, I might close down the aperture to maybe 5.6, or maybe even 6.3, just so I get the whole bird in focus. And that might be because the owl gets really, really close and I might miss the focus on the eyes, because I really want to make sure the eyes are in focus. And having a closed down aperture gives me a little bit more leeway. So I'll set my shutter, I'll set my aperture, but I don't want to have to think about the third thing that makes for a perfect exposure, which is my ISO. So once I have my shutter, my aperture set, the ISO fills in the missing gap. And on a bright sunny day, sometimes it's as low as, 72 or even 64, I think is what my camera can go to. A lot of you, if you've been watching my channel, know that I use a video head. This allows me to be able to pan nice and smooth. I can control the drag by increasing tension or loosening it. And I can also lock it off. There's a lock off right here, as well as the tilt. So that is the lock for the tilt. And then I can also control the fluid here for the tilt. So that's pretty cool. This lens right here has a tripod mode for my VR. So for my vibration reduction, I could just switch that over to the tripod. Now, if you have a lens that doesn't have tripod mode, you might want to shut that off, because your lens is designed to try and stabilize movement if you have it set to on. Well, if you're on a tripod, you've already removed a lot of the movement, and the VR might work against you, and it might create some blurry photos. Now, a lot of people have asked me in the comments, do I keep VR on for shutter speeds over 500th of a second? And I had another video that I did on sharpness. I don't find there's any issues with my Z9 and newer lenses. It doesn't seem to disrupt my fast shutter speed and make them blurry. But another big reason is if you are shooting video, you want to be able to have your stabilization on all the time, so you can look through the viewfinder and actually follow your subject, and it stabilizes throughout the whole video process, which is pretty cool. Okay, another thing that I forgot to show you guys is why I'm wearing this hat, this toque over top of a hat. And it's because when I'm out in the field and it's really sunny like this, I use the brim of my cap to block out the sun when I'm looking through the viewfinder. Now, if it's cold, obviously I'm going to wear one of these toques. That's what we call them up here in Canada, is toques. But the toque also works really well for like putting down some of these like little blinders here. So when I was out filming and photographing the short-eared owls, I actually had this way down like this, like little side blinders. And I just kind of made myself a little bit of a little cave in here so I can look through my viewfinder. So now there's another option where you can add electronic vibration reduction, so EVR, on your Nikon Z9 and Z8. You might be able to do it on other camera bodies. So this will kind of like crop in your video just a little bit so it can compensate for any of the movement. And you can only use it at 4K video at 60 frames per second and under. You can't do it at 120 frames, and it can't be 6 or 8K from what I've read. And I've tried it on other ones and it just is grayed out. So if it's grayed out, just look that up. You just might have to move your settings there. And that's really nice. It smooths things quite a bit. Okay, now let's talk about function buttons. So for video, right here, this button that's next to my back button focus, I actually have it programmed so that it crops in. So for video, since the sensor size is huge, it's great for 8K. When I set it up for 4K at say 120 frames, when I push this button to crop in, it's still 4K because the image sensor has so many pixels, the quality doesn't change. So it's pretty cool. I have like a little built-in zoom for just pushing that button. Like I said before, I use back button there, and I want to make sure that this function button is right next to it so it can crop in, take a bit of video, crop out, pull focus, do all of that. Now my focus is set up for area, full area with subject detection. So I'll make sure that I'm selecting bird if I'm out photographing birds or filming birds. But my focus, I usually set it to AFC for continuous. Now when I'm following birds, in this case owls, I'll pull focus, but if it dips down into some of the bushes and stuff, I won't hold down the focus button, I release it. A lot of the times the owls, are flying maybe parallel to me, or I have enough depth of field that it's not going to go in and out of focus too much. So I'll just pulse on the focus. Anytime that it finds the eye of the owl, I might push the button to make sure that I have focus or refocus if it needs it. But if it's going in and out of bushes or behind trees, I don't want the focus to go ahead and pull all the time. Now the thing is, I have some of these buttons right here on my lens programmed for spot focus. So if the full area subject detection doesn't pick up on the eye or the head of the animal, I might have to hold down one of these buttons, which switches everything to spot focus, and then I can go ahead and grab focus on the subject. A lot of the times this is when, the owl has landed somewhere and it's just perched there and I need to just regain focus before it flies off. Then the last thing that I do, and I guess nothing is in particular order, but I have, manual focus with peak highlights selected so that I can manually find the focus that I want. The peak focus is illuminated, and then wherever that highlights is, that's what's in focus. So I have those three things set up on the camera all the time for video. And a lot of the times it's the same as photos. Now this is a Ninja 5 monitor, so if you're interested in this, links down below. I don't always carry this with me and mount it onto my camera gear when I'm out. It's just nice having it up here so that you can see everything, and you can actually program and put LUTs on here so that all your editing, whatever look that you're looking for, you can actually program it and put it on here so that when you're out video recording, you can see how it's going to look in the final stage of your editing workflow. So that's pretty cool. You can also record your screen here. On the back, I've got I think it's a terabyte or 2 terabytes hard drive that plugs into there. There's also batteries here, and you can also plug it into the wall if you have an outlet and doing some studio work. So this thing is pretty awesome, but again, it's not necessary at all for video recording out in the field. It is just really nice. So sometimes I tilt it like this, and if I'm really close to the ocean or the water, like a lake or something, and I'm photographing or filming birds, this is a really nice position to look down and see everything that I'm looking at and filming. So that's really great. It doesn't come with a whole bunch of accessories. So when you do look at this product, know that you're gonna have to, buy some batteries if you want to take in the field. You're gonna have to get the hard drives you plug in. You're gonna have to get these HDMI cords that are compatible with your camera. Another thing for pulling focus is the full or limiting your focus for your lens. If you know that your subject isn't going to be really close to you, then you can limit it to, in this case, 8 meters. So this is great so that the motor is just working with a distance further than 8 meters. If it was full, which it says right here, full, then if there's a little twig or a branch or something like that in the foreground, it might lock focus on that, and that might not be good. So depending on how close your subject is, you might want to switch that. It's a little cold down at the beach. We might move indoors. So I might do some recording back in my office here. Okay, we're back in the studio, and there's a few other things that I need to go over. One of them is peak focus. I talked about it in the field, but one thing you need to know is if you are shooting with an older lens, peak focus won't engage when you are using your manual focus ring. You actually have to turn your setting on your lens to manual, and then peak focus will engage. So if it's on auto, when you turn this ring, it won't do anything. You actually have to switch it over to manual, and then peak focus will engage. That is, if you set up your camera correctly to have peak focus turned on. Now, you can do it on your camera body on the D850. It's right here. It says manual and autofocus, so you can switch between the two. And when I switch it on to manual, the peak focus comes on. Another thing is audio. I use this is the Stereo Video Mic Pro from Rode, to be able to capture, birds, the sound of a brook and the ocean, wind blowing. This is stereo mic, so it picks up everything in and around, and it does a pretty good job of picking up my voice if I need it to. I also use this. This is a Video Mic Pro from Rode, and it's a shotgun mic, so basically it picks up the audio of wherever I point this at. Sound quality is quite important. People can watch a video that has lower quality video footage, but it's really hard to watch a video if it has bad sound. For my miking system, like I'm talking right now, I use the DJI lav mics, and it can clip onto my sweater and stuff. Right now I'm wearing it right here. This thing is great, and it's connects back to my receiver, which it plugs into my camera. Now, there's other pieces of equipment that I use to carry my video equipment if I'm using two different camera bodies, because sometimes I'll use my Z9 for taking photos, and my Sony camera I'll use for taking video. And that's where I'll use a chest harness. This is one from Cotton Carrier. I use this all the time. I'll put one camera here that either I use for photos, and I hook it up here, and then grab another one, sometimes off a belt loop. You can put this on right here, so you can have your camera right up on your chest as well. Or I like to sometimes put it down on my belt, and then I can grab my lens down here. So that way, if you're not using a tripod, you have two different camera bodies. One's for photography and the other one's for video. You can switch between the two. You don't have to get the small one. You can get the other one that's an actual holster. It's a big belt, and it really supports long lenses on your side. So I use that when I'm shooting and filming eagles and I'm on a boat. It's really nice for the support. Now, most of us have smartphones, and they can record 4K video quality, even slow-mo. And for that, I sometimes rig this up. This is a little holster that I have here. I'll have links down below. But this holds my camera like that. And I can film myself and mount this anywhere. So sometimes I mount it on my tripod. A lot of the times, this right here, I'll put it on the back of my viewfinder, and I will record what I see in my camera using my phone instead of using the monitor that I showed you earlier. So we all have cameras in our phones now. Why not use this for video? And it's great for vlogging as well. This little elbow right here, as soon as I tighten it up, all these different little arms also tighten up as well. So you can move it and then tighten it, and it locks in place. If you are interested in setting up your camera, like all the different settings in the back menu. I have a whole other video. The thumbnail looks like this. Whole video on breaking that down, so check that out. I also have a free document that you can download on how to get sharp images in the field. If you want that free document, click on the link down below. So if you like this content, please give me that thumbs up, and if you aren't subscribed, think about subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Ciao.